Ukraine takes the lead in global security. Kyiv takes control of the entire Middle East. Ukrainian weaponry monster covers the sky. The world is in shock. Only the Ukrainian armed forces can do this. Super powerful drones are being prepared for ruthless patrolling. Zelensky has issued an urgent order. Shockwaves hit the Kremlin as Putin loses his main ally. Is he next? Putin in panic hides in a bunker. Will Russia face the consequences immediately after Iran? Hidden fears and paranoia of the Russian dictator are now visible after the latest global events. The temperature is rising. Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. Maria Farafonova here with the latest updates. Ukraine is set to assist Middle Eastern countries in defending against Iran's drone attacks, while ensuring that this support does not compromise the defense capabilities of its own armed forces. This was emphasized by President Volodymyr Zelensky. The president reported that he held a meeting on the current situation in the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. Participants discussed challenges faced by Ukraine, the risks to its partners, and ways to provide protection and save lives. Zelensky noted that he has already been in talks with the leaders of the UAE, Qatar, Jordan, and Bahrain. Upcoming discussions are planned with Kuwait and other regional states. All these nations face a shared threat: Iranian Shahed drones, with Tehran having already deployed over 1,400 strike UAVs. According to the president, he tasked Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha, working alongside intelligence agencies, Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, Military Command and NSDC Secretary Rustem Umerov to prepare support options for these countries while making sure Ukraine's defense against Russia remains uncompromised.
Our military have the necessary capabilities. Ukrainian experts will work on site, and the teams are already arranging this. And we are ready to help protect life, protect civilians, and support real efforts to stabilize the situation and restore, in particular, safe navigation in the region.
Ukrainian P-1 Sun drones could potentially secure the skies over Dubai. The United States and Gulf countries are considering acquiring these drones to counter the Iranian Shahed threat. In the region, Patriot systems are currently used not only to intercept ballistic missiles but also to shoot down Shahed UAVs. Iran still maintains at least 1,000 additional ballistic missiles in reserve, keeping the threat ongoing. Drones are far cheaper than Patriot missiles, which makes them an attractive option for countries facing a large stockpile of Iranian UAVs and seeking cost-effective air defense solutions. Putin's key ally has been eliminated. Iran's state television confirmed the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, whose body was recovered from the wreckage and positively identified. The Kremlin dictator is panicking at the thought of being next. Politico reports that Khamenei's death triggered two major fears in Putin: paranoia over his personal survival and the drive to secure victory in Ukraine at all costs. Within Russian circles, Khamenei's death drew comparisons to the violent demise of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi after NATO intervention in 2011. Footage of Gaddafi's killing reportedly caused a state of panic in Putin. The rapid downfall of other Russian allies such as Maduro and Khamenei led some pro-Kremlin commentators, including Dmitry Medvedev, to openly break a long-standing informal rule of avoiding criticism of the US administration. The Kremlin opted for a more measured diplomatic response. After condemning Khamenei's death, spokesperson Dmitry Peskov expressed deep disappointment over failed US-Iran negotiations, but also deep gratitude for US efforts to promote peace in Ukraine. He added, however, that first of all, we trust only ourselves and protect our own interests, signaling that Russia's objectives in Ukraine remain the priority.
His most important weapon in this conflict was the willingness and ability of the Trump administration to put pressure on the Ukrainians and the Europeans. Therefore, he has absolutely no reason to give up this weapon.
Green noted that despite personal concerns, Putin acts pragmatically.
Putin is not going to risk his personal security, the security of his regime, or his vision of Russia's national security to stick his neck out to help the Iranians, the North Koreans, the Chinese, or anyone else.
Green added that Putin is acutely aware of how dictators with immense power usually exit, either under arrest or in a box, and this reality terrifies him. Ukraine strengthens its skies. A major air defense reform is underway, and soon AIM and NASAMS missiles will arrive to bolster the country's protection. In addition, the government has authorized critical infrastructure enterprises to form their own air defense units. Here's what you need to know about these developments.
Ukrainian President Zelensky stated that if Middle Eastern countries put pressure on Russia, Ukrainian specialists will help them build an effective air defense system. Ukraine is also ready to provide such assistance to its partners without any conditions.
The Middle East has close economic ties with the Russian Federation and exerts influence. If they send a signal to Russia to cease fire, for example, for a month or two, then we can send our specialists to protect the civilian population. For example, with the United Kingdom, we have a century-long security agreement. If, God forbid, such partners were attacked or faced certain risks, we would send our people.
In addition, Ukraine is ready to exchange its interceptor drones, which are more effective against Iranian Shaheds and are significantly cheaper, for missiles capable of shooting down ballistic targets.
On the topic of arms exchange, we are interested in this. We have our own capabilities, and you know what we produce. And there is a shortage in Middle Eastern countries as well, in principle, so the question is how to make up for this shortage and solve our problems. That's why we will be ready to make contact. The diplomats have received instructions from me, and they are communicating.
You remember just a few days ago, there was a report that the United States delivered a large batch of Patriot batteries to Saudi Arabia. And then in Kyiv, many people were asking, why are they supplying them with such a quantity? It's a peaceful country. It has no security problems. But for us, when Russia is pounding us every day and we are simply in need of these missiles, they don't supply them, they don't sell them. Well, here's the answer to that question. Saudi Arabia may now need air defense even more than Ukraine, because strikes on Saudi oil fields could trigger an economic crisis of such magnitude that no one would recover from it for decades.
There is a shocking reform in the Ukrainian air defense system. Now, critical infrastructure enterprises will be able to create their own air defense groups, and the state will provide the ammunition. This was announced by Prime Minister Svyridenko.
Personnel will undergo training and certification at institutions designated by the Ministry of Defense. The Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine will be able to temporarily transfer air defense systems and ammunition to enterprises, based on individual decisions for each enterprise. This concerns weaponry that is not currently being used by combat units. In the event that ammunition is used, replenishment will be carried out through a simplified procedure based on an actual expenditure report.
At the same time, European partners have promised to find and purchase the missiles Ukraine needs for an unprecedented amount and to invest in interceptor drones.
Today, there was an important initiative to collect PAC-3 missiles from European stockpiles because this is important and critical for our country right now. I am grateful for this initiative. I hope that we will see the results of this initiative very soon. But today we heard announcements totaling almost $38 billion. They are allocated precisely for air defense systems, for drones, for the development of assault drone units, for deep strike, and for interceptor drones.
But regarding air defense, there are also major concerns that a war with Iran could deplete stockpiles, and this might affect Ukraine as well.
On the less positive side, in my opinion, if the war drags on, there will be a shortage of air defense systems among Middle Eastern partners. You can see that they are using air defense systems against the Shaheds. This suggests that they probably don't have as many missiles as the Iranians have drones, so the consumption is still very high. And that's why, yes, this is undoubtedly a risk for us in terms of quantity. So far, we have not received any signals regarding the reduction of programs. But we ourselves, thank God, are friends with logic and can understand what might happen, what risks there could be.
We can only hope that the war in the Persian Gulf will not be prolonged, because this would harm not only the ability to purchase air defense systems, but also energy prices with all the resulting consequences.
Europe is arming itself. Poland will seek to create its own nuclear weapons and deepen cooperation with allies, in particular with France. Potential cooperation with Paris may include joint training and the temporary deployment of French Rafale fighter jets capable of carrying nuclear weapons in other European countries. All the details in the next report.
Countries throughout Europe are currently working to significantly strengthen their nuclear security measures. Poland is preparing a historic alliance with France, which is expected to change the nuclear map of Europe. Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that Warsaw no longer wants to remain a bystander when it comes to issues of strategic security.
Poland is well aware that the threat from the Russian Federation is quite significant. This threat is primarily due to the Kaliningrad region. This threat is also caused by potential risks coming from the territory of Belarus. And Poland, instead of modernizing and reforming itself like the North Atlantic Alliance NATO, is primarily chasing a placebo effect.
Negotiations on a possible format of cooperation are being held with a number of European countries interested in strengthening collective defense. Earlier, French President Emmanuel Macron proposed expanding the French nuclear deterrence system by opening it up to partners. It is expected that the topic of nuclear cooperation will become one of the key issues at the upcoming summit in Paris.
The number of countries that will want to at least have a base on their territory where the nuclear weapons of France, the United Kingdom, or the United States could be stationed will, of course, increase. And countries like Germany could even afford their own nuclear program and the creation of their own nuclear weapons. Therefore, naturally, the number of such countries will only continue to grow. But I will repeat myself, nuclear weapons are a destructive tool which, despite all their destructiveness and menace, are nothing more than a placebo effect in a conventional war.
The French initiative provides for various forms of cooperation, from joint exercises and demonstrations of capabilities to the deployment of France's strategic aviation on the territory of its allies. Paris believes that dispersing such forces will undermine the calculations of a potential adversary and strengthen the overall level of Europe's defense.
This is a reputational blow, and it will put pressure on Russia simply by the fact that countries which previously had not considered possessing their own nuclear weapons or hosting nuclear weapons from a third country on their territory are now thinking about it. This is the effect of the entire geopolitical strategy that the Kremlin has chosen in recent times.
For years, Putin has been blackmailing the entire world with the threat of a nuclear strike because he has no other levers of influence left. Earlier, the dictator accused France and the United Kingdom of preparing to transfer nuclear weapons to Ukraine.
The Russian army is suffering defeat in Ukraine, and at the same time, nuclear fever is spreading in Europe, with more and more countries wanting to possess nuclear weapons. This is a complete failure of the Kremlin's entire foreign policy strategy. Of course, this will put reputational pressure on him because the Kremlin will be powerless to counteract it and will be unable to prevent it in any way. All it can do is watch this process unfold.
France possesses the fourth largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Earlier, Macron announced an update to the nuclear doctrine. Paris intends to increase the number of nuclear warheads and will also stop publishing detailed information about its stockpiles.
There are official figures which may be counted in thousands of missiles or in tens or hundreds. But again, all of this is such highly classified information, and only what is advantageous for these governments to reveal ever comes to the surface. No one really knows how many combat-ready warheads each country actually has, and that's very important, combat-ready warheads. How many have been produced, how many are in storage, and how many are on active duty.
Macron also announced that the first French third-generation nuclear missile submarine will set out to sea in 2036.
That's all for now. Stay with us to be the first to know what's happening right now. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!